So welcome everyone to Champs Club Day 2. And today we're going to be having our very own Caroline Patterson, the leader for Santa Monica in sales, giving you guys a talk on building more rapport with your customers. For those of you who don't know Caroline that well, she is a film major in Georgia, which is super exciting. And she's over $40,000 in career sales and has run the field training program as well as been a previous SC1 push winner. So with that being said, I'll go ahead and turn it over to Caroline. Unfortunately, in breakout rooms, we're not able to spotlight. So once Caroline starts talking, she'll immediately be able to take over the spotlight. And go ahead.
Awesome. Well, hey, everyone. I hope your Saturday's off to a good start, but it's kind of early. So even if it's not, prepare for these next 15 minutes to jumpstart your Olean push because we're talking about one of my favorite topics, rapport. Now, I don't have to say this, but obviously if you're here, you've probably heard a lot of talks on rapport building, and it also means that you're pretty likable. I'm serious. You wouldn't have made it this far if people didn't enjoy working with you. So everyone take your right hand, give yourself a pat on the back. Thank yourself for being you. Everyone feeling pretty good? Cool. All right, well, let's get into it. In preparing for this talk, Brad texted me, there's rapport and then there's Cutco rapport. So in 15 minutes, I'm going to tell you about rapport for Cutco, but a lot of these tips I think apply outside of the business and will really set you apart from others. So, but it's important if Brad texts you. And I think, this seems like a really fitting talk to start off the day and to start off the push. Carson helped all of us get excited to schedule and get really clear. And here's the next step. I think everything starts, and I would also say ends with rapport. And what's another word for rapport? Put in the chat box. Or say it out loud. No one? Too early? All right. Well, I would say another word for rapport is connection. You may have noticed we're doing this talk before the phone jam, so I'm going to give you tips and a cheat sheet of questions you can use right away. Obviously for those of us in school, I'm sure you learned that cheating is bad. But in Cutco, taking advice from other reps is the shortcut to building the skills that you'll use both in and out of the business. All right, let's try the chat box again. You've likely heard the rapport begins when? The phone. We're on the phone jam. Pretty good. All right, we all feel good with that answer? We all think it starts on the phone? Okay, allow me to blow your mind. Rapport actually begins with your mindset. Everyone close your eyes. Take a deep breath in and out. Don't fall asleep. Ask yourself, how did I show up this morning? How will I show up today? How do I want to show up tomorrow? If you're taking notes, building great rapport has two parts, great energy and great questions, which lead to great conversations. So why does rapport begin with your mindset? Because your mindset determines your energy. It's all about how you show up. Who's ever had to do something you didn't want to? Raise your hand. Anyone ever had to do something you didn't want to? Yeah, everyone. How did you show up? Were you in a bad mood? Yeah. What tends to happen when you show up in a bad mood? You probably don't have the best time. But what about those times when that thing that you really didn't want to do turns out to be more fun or better than you expected? Do you think you stay in that bad mood? No, for sure not. Your energy totally shifts because your mindset was proven wrong. But how powerful would it be if you were able to affect your mindset before you even got to that point? Imagine how you would show up if you knew you were in charge of your attitude. If you look for the negative, you'll find it. Which means if you look for the positive, you'll find that too. So choose to look for the positive, and you won't be able to show up with anything but your best mindset. That's my first tip. Now, that isn't to say that you should try to be someone you're not. It's important to show up as yourself. Jasmine, you might do different things differently than Brad, and that's a good thing. You won't be comfortable if you're trying to be someone else, so be yourself. And that will lead to you showing up as the person that you are and the person that someone else wants to talk to. So we've got that down. We got mindset down. We're showing up as the person they want to talk to. Now what? There's two main reasons to build rapport in this business. The first is to connect, and the second is to gain information. So how does this work on the phone? If you've ever been on a phone jam or even just talked today for any amount of time, you've heard smile while you dial. Energy is contagious. Miss Jones will be able to hear if you're smiling, but there's another benefit to it because it affects you positively too. So there you go. There's your good energy. Now to questions. If you've qualified your leads, which you should always do, questions will be easy because you should already have an idea of the answer. Building a connection is almost more important over the phone because it's often your first impression, but you don't want to overdo it. You want to save the majority of like the deeper questions for your demo, but asking questions that have the potential to go even just a little deeper than regular small talk, but won't derail the phone call is what's recommended. Your time's valuable, so is theirs. Make sure you don't take it for granted. Ask things that are positive. How's your day been? What are you excited for this weekend? Miss Jones, does Monday at 5 p.m. work or would Tuesday at 2 be better? And remember to thank them. Make sure they know how much this means to you. And the secret, get them excited for how much fun this future demo, future conversation, future continued connection is going to be. That's the trick to phone time. Not only ask questions, but transfer your energy. Now onto the demo. You've probably heard managers say, be interested, not interesting. Good energy leads to good questions. But if rapport is about asking your customer questions, why do we start with our goals and our story? Anyone have any ideas? Ryan's like, what? People need to like you, connect with you, and most importantly, trust you. So they feel comfortable not only buying something, parting with their hard-earned money, but also taking your advice. Alex Monk gives a great talk on rapport basics, and one of my favorite points he makes is that great rapport isn't about me and then about them. It's about your favorite word, connection, connecting the two. It's about tying each thing about you into something about them. It's about finding things to relate on. He starts his appointments with, hey, I know you really want the long drawn out presentation, but I'm going to keep it short and sweet for you. Let Miss Jones know you're doing things for her. Let me start off by telling you a little about myself. You're probably wondering how I ended up in front of you showing kitchen stuff. If you tie in questions that you're anticipating in your goals, in the intro, in rapport, that's helpful. They probably are wondering why you're showing them kitchen stuff. So there's something that you can automatically connect on. Now, if you feel like you haven't built up enough rapport heading into the demo, you can always use the travel hack. Hey, by the way, Cutco allows me to travel a ton. What's your favorite place you've ever been? What's the best trip you've ever taken? What would you recommend I do if I go there? Then go about 3 questions deeper. Now, if you don't care about traveling, don't ask about traveling. Ask questions about things you can relate to, things you're interested in. Remember, you don't need to be anyone else but you. Now, looking at everybody, I think we all like traveling here because, that's a good thing. Cutco puts on some amazing trips, and traveling is one of the best ways to expand your mind and experience. But this isn't a talk on traveling. It's a talk on rapport. I gotta focus. So remember, the first purpose of rapport is connection. You're asking Miss Jones questions about herself, telling her about you. Once you feel all nice and connected, you can head into the demo. You're not necessarily done by any means because you can and should keep building rapport throughout, but this is where the questions become helpful for you. If your main goal when you do a demo or a service call is to sell something to Miss Jones, then you're not going to be able to build successful rapport, even if you have a good connection, because the second purpose of rapport is to give you information on how to help. Instead of thinking of yourself as a sales rep, think of yourself as a service professional. Your job is to help Miss Jones solve problems. Miss Jones needs to feel comfortable taking your advice, and for her to feel comfortable, she has to trust you. You only gain trust when you show you care. There's the connection, and when you show that you're knowledgeable. You probably don't need to stress the use of like the meat knife uses if they're vegetarian, but you wouldn't know that if you don't ask questions. Brandon Brown says whoever asks the questions controls the conversation, and it's your job to guide things so the time is used efficiently and can be fun. You don't have to waste time talking about things that aren't important. And this is all how you qualify people. Are they married? Do they have kids? How long have they lived in their neighborhood? What's the most frustrating task they do in the kitchen? What's something they wish they had? These questions lead you to information that will help you help Miss Jones. You know, obviously everyone knows, like, we've got scripts for everything. But if this job were just about following a script, then a robot could sell Cutco, right? Yeah, Brad's nodding. You're here because Miss Jones not only needs your help thinking through these decisions, but if you're really good with your questions, she'll want your help too. Hey, Miss Jones, before we head into the presentation, I want to do my best to show you things you might care about. Would you be okay with me asking questions about what you do in the kitchen right now? Asking permission is key because it makes this a conversation and sets the expectations that Miss Jones needs to respond. Do you make food because you have to, you like to, or you love to? Who's the main cook? Would you say you prepare dinner a couple nights a week, most nights a week, every night? What about breakfast? What about lunch? What's the toughest food you have to cut up in your kitchen? What's the food you wish you could eat more, but it's a pain to prepare? What's your favorite dish your wife makes? What's your favorite dish your husband makes? Tie in both Mr. and Mrs. Jones, especially if one of them is talking less or seems less interested. And then one of my last points, good questions can also come from Miss Jones. This is the last little secret. That's how you know if you're doing a good job. So you can like go out, do all this rapport, be an interesting person, be good at asking questions and talking to people, but you won't really know if you're doing a good job unless you're listening. If you notice that Miss Jones isn't asking you any questions, she may not be interested, in which case you should move on, or she may not trust you yet. In this case, you might need to spend more time either building a better connection or showing your knowledge with stories of past customers and past experience. If she asks you a question you aren't sure how to answer, that's when you call your manager. Find out. Better to make someone wait for the right answer than risk giving them the wrong one. I did this one yesterday with a sale that seemed interesting. And lastly, remember that rapport isn't a straight line. Circle back to good energy. It's a circle. You want to keep doing energy, keep doing questions. That's what keeps the conversation going. Check in with yourself and with Miss Jones throughout. Pause, ask things like, does that make sense? What do you see yourself using that for? Do you ever maybe sometimes host holiday events or big groups of family and friends? What's your favorite thing I've told you so far? Giving some space in the conversation reminds Miss Jones that it is a conversation. You know, rapport is one of my favorite things about this job because it has so many applications in and outside of Cutco. I was so excited the first day in my screenwriting class when my screenwriting professor said, when you go to pitch a script and you're trying to get the script optioned, the point of the meeting is not to sell the script. It's to build rapport. It's to build a connection. It's to make people want to work with you. If you master rapport, people will like you. They'll trust you. They'll want to help you, and they'll remember you. We go into the demo saying we want to be the best part of Miss Jones' day. Are you ready to prove it?